everyone. So, good afternoon, people. It's an honor and a great pleasure to be here to start our international seminar about the attacks and to discuss Africa in different perspectives in relation to the attacks of imperialism and the capitalism in the history of Africa. Okay, my name is Wilson Silva. I'm speaking from Brazil, and it's a great pleasure to be here to introduce the comrades that are going to be part of this international seminar. The international seminar, after a little introduction, we are going to introduce the comrades who are going to speak to you tonight. The international seminar is being promoted by the International Workers League for International, IWL, FI, and the International Socialist League from England, and also our collective in South Africa that I'm going to introduce of civil rights in South Africa. I'm going to introduce you later. All right. So, but before we start the seminar itself, I think there was a little delay in the introduction, but so for the ones who are entering now, before we start the international seminar itself and introduce the comrades, introduce the issues that are going to be discussed, we are going to hear a short greeting from our comrade from Portugal, Tonga, who has activities with Black people and immigrant people in Portugal. Is part of the discussion about Africa because we are people from the diaspora. So let's hear Tonga for 2-3 minutes, and then we start. I come back to introduce you to the issues of the seminar.
Hi, I'm António Tonga from Enluta, the International Workers League Portuguese section, and I'm here to speak about the struggles of the youth sectors and the working class in Africa. Um, we are experiencing a moment of radical struggles against police brutality, against inequality, against public policies, against the pandemics. But we mostly see that capitalism, imperialism, neo-colonialism does, does not have an alternative, does not have a solution for our problems as Africans, um, in Africa and abroad in the diaspora. Talking about our continent, we see that Africa continues to be a continent where where the where the natural resources are drained off without any real compensation. We see that the political parties and our governors and governments are only a mere tool of capitalist domination, and that domination this domination can only secure its place by draining the blood, sweat, and tears of the African working class. Therefore, we say that there isn't any hope on the Buhari government in Nigeria. So we radically support NSAS, and we say that this organization, self-organization of the youth sectors that are stopping the airports, stopping the docks, must take one step further, and one step further by organizing self-defense against the police, against the military, therefore demanding a total disbandment of the death squads and death patrols that the police corps have within itself. On the other side, in Angola, we see a youth sector as well, struggling against the dictatorship from the party MPLA that has ruled the country ever since the independence in 1975, and with the sponsorship from every single imperialist power nowadays. So in order to deeply so in order to suppress these governments and these directions, this corruption, this poverty that the capitalism only gives to only gives and has given to Africans, we must build an alternative. And we're talking about an alternative that will put the power, the resources, the natural resources, the companies on the hands of the people, and the people who must organize and hold the power in order to refute any alternatives within the capitalism. There is no way out for the African working class in a capitalist society.
So I'm sorry, we are back. So thank you for Tonga for this greeting from Portugal. It's very important to unite the working class and the most exploited one all over the world. So starting again, so we are going to start now our international seminar. So the about the overexploitation of the working class and the theft of the natural resources in Africa. For those ones who are entering now, my name is Wilson Silva. I am a son of the diaspora, speaking from Brazil, from PSTU, the Workers Socialist, uh, the Workers Socialist Party United here in Brazil, as part of the International Workers League. The seminar is being promoted by the National Workers League in alliance with the International Socialist League from England, our section in England, and also the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa. So just to warn you of something before we start the presentations, there is a form in the chat of the transmission and also in the comments of Facebook and YouTube. You can access us from Facebook and YouTube. And in this form, you can fill this form, and then you are going to receive the materials from the seminar, the PowerPoint that's going to be presented, and also the articles you're writing about Africa, produced by IWL, ISL, and also the Congolese Society. All right. So to start, we are going to hear Joe Ives. He's from an activist and vice president of the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa, author of several articles and speaker about the exploitation of natural resources and the impact for the communities and the workers in Congo and in the African continent. Joe is going to speak about what's going on in Africa, mainly in relation to the theft of the African resources, and how during the pandemic and the economic crisis, the struggles are being organized uh, against the xenophobia and the anger that are being faced mainly not only by the workers and the youth in Africa itself, but also in the countries itself, but also by the immigrants and refugees living in that area. So Joe Ives is going to speak with us, and afterwards we can uh, come back to you. So, Joe, be welcome. It's a great pleasure, a great honor to hear from you. The table is yours.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you, Wilson. And from Brazil, as you say, I'm Joe Eve. I'm speaking from South Africa, a member of the Congolese Civil Society. And I'll be sharing a PowerPoint just to give you an idea about what I'm talking about, also to control my time. So welcome to everyone, and let's share the moment together and discuss. Yes. So, according to the World Bank, within 10 years, all African will be very poor because 90% of us will be living under the level of poverty. And that is true. That is true because currently we have in Africa women that are giving birth to children in those so-called maternities, and those children are studying in those conditions in so many countries in Africa. That is a reality. This is the kind of road we're using in many of our countries, and we still having people in Africa living in such kind of houses. Means poverty is a reality in Africa. And according to the World Bank, as I said, within 10 years, 90% of the population of Africa will be very poor. But the contrast is because this Africa that is very poor has resources everywhere. In each and every countries, we have natural resources, and but the reality, we are very poor. If you visit a country like Congo, that is called a geological scandal, you have mineral almost everywhere. And the same reality can also be seen in Nigeria. I know that Nigeria is well known for the oil, but beside the oil, Nigeria and countries surrounding Nigeria are also very rich in other type of mineral. So let's see the reality. I consider the reality of Nigeria because it's one of the powerful economy in the continent, according to all the financial institutions. And Congo is also well known as a country that is potentially very rich. So I'll take those two reality to show us how to reflect on the life of the population. 40% of the population in Nigeria live with less than $380 per year, means less than $1 per year. And in DRC, the same reality. 75% of the population are living with less than $1, less than $2 per day. And that is a big scandal. And now the question, why is Africa so poor? Because we saw that we have a lot of resources everywhere in Africa, but we are so poor. According to the International Monetary Fund, African countries are very rich, but the problem is the corruption. You have very corrupt leaders, and there is no good governance in your country. So those corrupt governments are stealing all the natural wealth, and they are responsible of the poverty in your countries. So when such a statement is made by such an international financial institution that is well known and well respected, what is the result? The result is that people will decide to say, okay, let's change the government because they are responsible of what we're facing. That's why you see that in Africa, people fight a lot for election. And every time election is a very real challenge when people fight and die, especially youth on the street, they're fighting because they believe strongly that by changing government, they find the solution to the problem. But if we see deeply, let's say Nigeria is one of the most important economy in the sub-Saharan Africa. It's ranked among the 30 largest economy in the world. But if we compare the Human Development Index, Nigeria is only ranked the 158th country out of 189. And that is also a contrast. An economy that is ranked as one of the 30 largest economy and very important economy in the world, but with such a HDI, that have to question us. But we can see this reality deeply when we look at some statistics from Congo, because this openly shows us that the problem can not only be the corruption. And now let's see the reality in Congo. In Congo, this is a report. That's a report released by the Congolese bank, National Bank, and it shows that from January to August 2020, DRC produced 51,000 tons of cobalt, and that gave a value in terms of money of $1,740,000,000. But out of this amount, the state only earned, that the last column, only earned 3 million out of the 1,700,000,000 that was made by the production of cobalt in DRC. This have to shock us. Let's see with the copper, same reality. From January to August, the DRC produced 1 million tons of copper. And if we see the value of the money in red, it gave us $7 billion. But out of those 7 billion, what goes to the state is only 104 million. Means all the rest went to the private company. And let's sum the production of the cobalt and the copper in DRC, and we see the reality in the total. In yellow, we have the total amount that was generated by the production of the cobalt during the 8th month of the first month in 2020, this year. It gave almost $8,800,000,000. But out of that, the DRC as a state only earned $104 million. Means the rest of the 8,700,000,052 went to the private companies. So when we're talking about corruption, when the International Monetary Fund is talking about corruption is blaming leaders in Africa as corrupt, that was population are very poor, means they're talking about this green paid part of the table. Means out of this money, they only index the 140 million that could be misled or misused by our government. We know that they are corrupt, but nothing is said about what is in red, the 8 billion going out. And if you consider that table, that shows you and explains to you why this is a scandal in the world. The 85 people who are very rich in the world, representing only 1%, they earn the equivalent of the 99 of the rest of the population who are under the responsibility of the states. So the 85 people who are very rich, they don't own any land or any mine, but they're very rich. But the state who own the mine and all the resources and who have population under their responsibility, they are very poor. This is a very big scandal. And now we can understand that the problem is not really the corruption. Corruption is a problem, but the problem is the expropriation of state resources by the private companies. Means resources are taken from the state to the private companies who are mostly foreign companies. And that is done through wars and rebellion. And I'm not going to focus on that tonight. And maybe during another discussion, I will go deeper because it's a very huge subject. But also by using economic system and international financial institutions, they play that role of expropriating states and giving the resources to private foreign companies. And remember that they set strategies for that. Like in the 1970s, there were the International Monetary Fund gave a lot of loan to African countries, explaining to them that you have to take this money from here and reinvest in this project and that project, very big project, but knowing that those projects will not gonna generate money. So and after 10 years, they came to claim the money with interest, and most of African countries were not able to pay the interest of the loan. And from there, in the 1990s, there was set a policy that was called a strategical adjustment plan from the International Monetary Fund, and in which it was said that for you to repay the debt, cut all the expense that all the money that you invest on the social condition of your population, education, health, road, and all that, and then you generate money to pay the debt. But also, you must go to privatization. So means give your concession to the private company. They will use it, and then they will pay you money. You will earn more money, and then you can pay the debt. But that was not true, because the reality shows us that they lie to African countries. In Nigeria, we know that Nigeria rely mostly on the economy rely mostly on oil. So in the 1970s, the IMF did the same thing by giving loans and making the country going through debt, huge debt that they couldn't also pay. In 2012, the price of the oil drops. Why? Because the US, that was the most important buyer, discovered its own reserve, so they couldn't buy from Nigeria anymore. So Nigerian economy was sitting with overexploitation of oil, but US is not there anymore to buy. So they turn to the Russia and China, who start to buy it, but little bit cheaper than what was the price with US. But from 2014, something happened with the economy in China. That also create a slowdown in China, means that Nigeria lost again another important partner who couldn't buy in the same quantity as before and at the same price. But in 2017, that's the most important thing. Christine Lagarde, the director of the International Monetary Fund, came in Nigeria and discussed with them and set a strategy. Say, I know that the country have debt to pay, but I will show the way how you have to manage to repay the debt. And knowing that that is a very respectful international institution in the world, so Nigeria went through that advice. See what happened. The International Monetary Fund said to Nigeria, first increase your VAT from 5 to 7.5%, means making your people paying more. Cut all the expense on the health and education. Again, increase the gasoline and the fuel price. So the poor population have to pay the price of that and scrap and resell the refinery. That means start to import gasoline, produce the raw, but import the gasoline. But the most important part of this policy is what is shown in green: the nationalization of the Nigerian national petroleum companies. Means it has to go to the private sector and start to obey to the market price. Nigeria is a country that produce oil, have to buy at the same price that, like the non-producers. And that is the kind of advice that the IMF gave to countries to increase your revenue in order to repay the debt, not to increase or to improve the situation of your population. But the most concern of the IMF is how countries have to repay the debt. In DRC was the same situation. 1997, and then they lend money to DRC through gigantic project. And then around 1990s, they came with the same policy, they said, the strategic adjustment plan. But in 2002, when DRC was struggling to fund peace because DRC was going through rebellion, there's the IMF coming back again to draw the mining code, saying, okay, this is the new mining code we'll be using, a mining code that is giving most important part of resource to the private sectors, to the foreign companies, by depriving the state from its own concession. And in 2010, they came again and said you have to denationalize Jeka Mine. That is the most important mining company of the state. Let's say the only one. So they said, no, you have to close it and give the concession to the private. Same strategy. And now the question is, for whom those kind of institutions are working for? because their advice produce more poverty on the reality. They can only work for imperialism and for financial capital. And when we're talking about the financial capital, we're not talking about something that doesn't exist. There are big banks and investment funds that combine themselves, almost 49, and who are control the economy of the world, control all the natural resources through strategy that we're going to see as we go further. And here, I couldn't take all of them, but I only take the six most important, according to me, most important because what you are present on the top of the table in blue, because they are investing everywhere in all the sector, all the mining sectors. They are also in the oil sector. They are in the weapon industry. Mean they're controlling the economy. The Vanguard Group, the Capital Research, we even have two. BlackRock Fund, BlackRock Investment Management, so two branches of BlackRock, and the Norges Bank. I only take those 6 examples. And if we see down, we have the most important company that invest in the mining, and we'll see that all these financial capital and financial institutions and they invest everywhere. In a country like Congo, and let's see, I select 5 companies, those are in blue, representing the sector like copper and cobalt, gold, diamond, and we can see that BlackRock, for instance, has a control, has share in all those companies. Vanguard Group does the same. And we can, even Capital Research, we can take anyone, the reality is the same. They invest in all those companies and control it by buying shares. In fact, those companies who are coming in Africa to invest are only branches, subsidiaries of other subsidiaries of big companies, the major that are founded by those financial capital institutions like BlackRock, like Vanguard Group. So when they come in Africa, they came to invest for the sake of those institutions, not for the population. In Nigeria, it's the same situation. I took the 5 major companies that operate in the oil sector: ExxonMobil, Chevron, Texaco, BP, Shell, and Gulf. They all controlled by the same BlackRock, because I only take BlackRock as a case study, but we can take any of other institutions and we see the same reality. They're controlling all the major the major companies who are investing in Nigeria in the oil sector. But beside those 5 major companies, we also have other foreign companies like Total, like Egypt. We have ConocoPhillips, we have Statoil, we have Petrobras, and all those companies are also controlled by BlackRock, who have important share inside. So means all the foreign companies that are investing in Nigeria are investing in the account of one of the important financial investment funds, that is BlackRock. But we know that also in Nigeria, they have the state company, that is the Nigerian National Petrol Company, NNPC. But see already that all the foreign companies are controlled by BlackRock. Means the money goes out and will reach the top, that is the investment fund as BlackRock and others. But I take the case of Shell, because they have put Shell in red. But why? Because Shell is very specific in Nigeria, controlling almost 50% of the national production. And Shell open branches. Snipco is a branch of Shell where the same BlackRock also have control. SPDC is a branch of Shell in Nigeria, controlled also by BlackRock. NSG is a branch also of Shell, controlled also by BlackRock. Means even those major companies, when they reopen branches in our countries, those branches are also controlled by the same investment fund, That farm, the major, the mother company, the grandmother company, and the daughter and the granddaughter company, if I can explain it in that way. But the last branch, that is NG, is very specific because it's not totally owned by Shell, but Shell has shares inside. That's why let's try to break it down and see the reality inside. This NLNG, inside we have Shell with 25%, knowing that Shell is controlled by BlackRock, and that is BlackRock operating. Total have share inside, controlled by BlackRock. ENI have 10% controlled by BlackRock. But something is very interesting is the national Nigeria petroleum companies that control almost half of the production of gas inside the NLNG. So we can say, okay, that's a very good news because the state is also controlling a part of the production. Now let's try to break down also the reality of this national company, Nigerian national company of petrol. The Nigerian National Petrol Company is also controlled by BlackRock. Even though they say it's a Nigerian national company, but inside you have Chevron that have 30% of shares, and Chevron, that means BlackRock also. Not only BlackRock, Vanguard Group, and all the rest, because they mix themselves when they're operating. This one buy shares in the other one and converse. So ESSO also have 30%. Nixon Petroleum Nigeria also controlled by BlackRock. So now question yourself, it's a Nigerian national petrol company, but see inside the reality is totally controlled by foreign companies that are controlled by financial institutions and that are not African. Means the production, even though they say when it comes to the gas, the national company control 50%, see where the 50% goes. And when economy is controlled, over control in that way, where financial institution, investment fund control the company, even in the branches, and financial institution help them to get control even of the national companies, the result can only be the overexploitation of workers, because the state become very weak and can't even set policies because the state is controlling nothing. Environment is totally destroyed, and because investment, when they are investing, their aim is to make money and be at the top of the rank, is not to improve the condition of where they're living. And the government is controlled because they are under control of the financial institution who advise them. They are under control and pressure of the investment fund who put the money. They have nothing to say, and resources are being stolen, and that can only create misery in Africa. That's the reality. And when you understand this strategy, where on top in the cloud we have investment fund that invest in the mine, in the petrol, in the army, and that are controlled state through what we call advisors like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. So when states are captured like that, the result can only be that. And now the question, why us as population and even as government, we can't stop this system? Why? The reason is because we are in a kind of prison that is ideological but also mental. Because they told us that, and that's what we learned from school, that privatization will create wealth for the state. So give to the private sectors, they will pay you taxes, and they will generate more money for your people. And there is nothing false than that, because the reality has proved it. But also, we've been taught that states don't have money to invest in the mine or other sectors. And there's nothing false than that. Because if I take a case like in Congo, where the most important gold mine is controlled by foreign companies, Kibali Mining, where the state only have 10%, but all the investment that went through that mine is only 2 billion of dollars. But the DRC itself in 2018 used exactly 2 billion for election. Why? Because internally people believe that election is the way to change the situation. So let's invest 2 billion for election process, and then we have a new president, and we will hope that thing will change. But at the same time, we will say that we don't have 2 billion to invest to create a national company that will take control of the gold mine in Kibali. So we gave the mine to private and foreign companies. They invest less than 2 billion, but we invest 2 billion in electoral process for election. So that is how we operate. And the third prison, the third ideological prison is because they told us that election will solve the problem. And as we can see in many countries, after election, then start the question of poverty. And government, we say we don't have money. They have to go again for loans. And that's the reality. So that is a prison and where Africans are. And when you understand this strategy, how it operates, then you can find the answer why 85% in the world are very rich and keeping in their hand the equivalent of the money that all the rest of the population have, while they only represent 1%, and they don't have a population under their responsibility. All they aim is to be ranked at the top. But states need money, but the resources are expropriated from the state to those private who works for the financial and investment funds. So that's why we have to come out of this prison, and that's the only way. And I think this is the aim of such activity that we conducting tonight. So as my time is limited, I will end up here, hoping that during the Q and A, I may be giving other additional information. Thank you so much for your attention, and let's get in with the program.
Okay, again, I'm sorry. So thank you, Joe, for your fantastic explanation. It was short, but it was at the same time it was very insightful. So I'm sure. Uh, I think the mic is on now. All right. Okay. So I think it gives people a lot of thinking about the situation and the exploitation of Africa by imperialism and capitalism. So after here, Joe, who is the president of the Congolese Civil Society, we are going to have two more speakers, and then you are going to open for questions. So we are asking people who are hearing us, seeing us, to send questions in the chat and the comments. But before that, I would like to greet and to say that our seminar is already a success. It's being seen all over the world. Just to quote some people who are sending greetings on our comments and chat. Danny from ISL, from the International Socialist League in South Wales, is here. Peter from ISL, also in Manchester. Comer Tonga, who spoke to us in the beginning, from Portugal, also from the International Workers' League section in Portugal, in Luta. If two very important participations, Eve Hukaya and Capelli Mutachi from the Congolese Renaissance movement based in Durban, Africa, is with us. Thank you very much for your presence. We appreciate that. Raquel from PSTU, the Workers' Socialist Party in Brazil, also is here. And you have also Mathieu from the Communist Workers League from Belgium, and Julian from the Workers' Party in Costa Rica, also related to the International Workers League, and Daniele Cofani from the Alternative Party, Communist Alternative Party from Italy, also from IWL. So we have people from all over the world. After the next speech, I will announce another comers who are here. So it's very important right now to send the questions. Like you just heard Joe speaking from the impact of the capitalism, imperialism, and their agents from bourgeoisie inside of Africa in the theft of the resources. Now to continue, so just you know how we are going to continue, you are going to have a 7 minutes speech from uh, Azaya, also from the Congolese civil society, and after other 7 minutes by Martin Half from ISL. So to introduce Azaya, Azaya is right now is just a moment. He's the president. He's currently the president of the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa, and has been dedicated to organizing the events and panels to explain the problems in Congo and the African continent. And also he's during the pandemic, and not only the pandemic, but mainly now in the crisis that we're facing, the pandemic and the economic crisis, he's organizing the struggle against xenophobia and the problems faced by immigrant people and workers in Africa. So Isaiah, thank you very much for being here. The word is with you.
Thank you very much, Wilson, to give me a way to speak. I really appreciate. And I'm thanking the audience who are here, and we really appreciate your presence. We don't have much time. Just greet everybody, and I need really to pay attention in the short presentation we're going to have concerning the crisis around the period of pandemic, which is hitting all of us. The Congolese Civil Society of South Africa, in collaboration with the International Socialist League and International Workers League, with all the organizations who join us, we are committed, I think, together with all of you, to change the perspective of how African people need to challenge the continuity of what the colonization system done by giving birth to the imperialism system who makes all of us to be the modern slave economically. That's why we're going to talk about the second independence in Africa as well, by stealing our natural resources, putting our economy in a permanent cage of debt and a driving state institution for the benefits of capitalism. As Eve mentioned earlier, the control of our natural resources and the economy and the external debts left our continent in a very serious crisis. And the reason why the negative impact of our economy left the footprint of the capitalism, how come a small, I just want the audience to ask yourself this question, how come a small minority of billionaires control a large multinational companies where all sector linked with a pandemic rescue, like a pharmacy, are driven by their greediness and let social class to die like animals? As if tried to explain to you earlier, you see how the structure of the multinational company is, how they own shares, and all the companies are linked to each other just to prioritize the control system where we cannot have access, a free access to make our social system to operate properly. Capitalism system through COVID and the world recession. This is something I just to pay attention, to make you to pay attention on putting those two together with the COVID and the recession which hit us, all of us. A process of uh, an economical explosion is on the way. As we can see, when we put the COVID and the recession together, we can see how the mess is going to be in our economy in the period of the pandemic, in the period of after the pandemic. And it's going to continue forever. All our country try to give the incorrect figure of death. We can see in a period of a pandemic, countries give the wrong figure of how many people die. And what is the reason behind that? There's a clash between the COVID and the new recession driving the entire world in a disaster because of falling of the capitalism system. That's why studying those facts, it gives us a way to understand how the capitalism system, the way they make all of us to be in a cage so that we cannot go out of their system and where we are failing all of us in this disaster. That's why so many of our family gone because of the system we are stuck in. And we're going to speak also about the pandemic and the global recession open a new world situation, meaning there's a new gap. Our world is open because of this clash of the pandemic and the recession, the new recession. And remember one thing, there was already a recession before this time where the world was already hit by economy, but the reality is there was a rise of a struggle which come from the country like Chile, like a country like China, where they try to make the capitalism system to stop their progress because the social class could see how we are going to get stuck in the losing everything in control, in economy, in job, in so many things. So those are the figures give us already before the pandemic to start. So combine that in the period where the pandemic starts and where nothing as economically improvement being seen in our period of lockdown all over the world. That's why you see this kind of the thing happen as well in a place like the US. You can see there was already a clash before the pandemic, and there were also a clash in the period of pandemic in US in the case of racism, in the case of police brutality. I think it was all over the world. We could see that. What is the cause of that? This is the failing of the capitalism system. The fact that all the debt was given to us, it couldn't make us, as Eve explained to us, to make sure to succeed in whatever we can make as a protection, a social protection in time of our family. That is why the small money we are getting and couldn't make us to sustain in this period. Why? Because already the clash started long time in the colonization system, which is moving away along the pandemic system. So what happened in the pandemic system is just the footprint of the capital, the failing of the capitalism system, because it shows really this system, we could not take it because this system destroy all the social worker system. That's why you could see there's a problem of work. There's a problem of a health system appropriate in the country of Africa, like in South Africa example, where lack of so many places to put people, and this hospital there were no space. So many people did have the corona. They couldn't keep them in the hospital. Why? Because there was no space. They are sending people home and they are checking how long and this is going to go. This is the thing make a disaster in Africa, specifically in South Africa, in Congo as well, in Nigeria and all over the country, even the West one in Brazil. That's why we have also experienced before, which is the recession happen, affects families since in the period of the Spanish flu in 1918. We could see the same thing happen before that, and whatever happened, it affected the world in a way where the economy was already affected badly. And we can see the pandemic of this period of the 2020, it's worse because it's compared to more than the earthquake. It's compared more than even what happened in the Second World War II or in the World War, where people could not survive and in a way to protect their family. There were no economy, there was nothing people will save as money to survive. Those are the system the capitalism implement in our life as a mankind. They control mankind, does never say without what they say. I want you also to remember one thing again. Remember before the pandemic, there was already a system where everybody was complaining about how far we're going to go in this system being driven by the capitalism system. And it's become worse now, because imagine they complained before and the complaint gets double in this period we are going through. So this is what we're going to see together as the disaster going to happen even after the pandemic. The way things going to be worse now. I wanted to see as well other way of a system. There's a lack of a proper health system from capitalism made the social class to stand for themselves. And the pressure of the new struggle may result to a new world reality, to a revolution and a counter-revolution. Military coup d'etat, sudden change in politics. We could see some of the change already happened in so many countries of Africa, like in Mali. It means there is influence of a disaster going to change so many institutions, government, because the pressure going to raise. We're not gonna survive in this system for long anymore. For decades, the government of the right and the reformist, left party, Socialist Democratic, apply the neoliberalist plan that scrap public health, privatize hospital. There are not enough hospitals, let alone the necessary intensive care until health system have collapsed. So those are the things we have to see what the pandemic left to us today. And this is not ending there, it's still carrying on. And what we're going to see again, and I can make you to see one of the experience happened long time already in Russia as well, so that we can understand there's nothing new in what's happening. It's just the implementation of what happened before in the period of the Russia's crisis as well. The Russian Revolution faced the epidemic in 1918. Shortly after the seizure of power, with the country still destroyed, without a sanitary condition or a hospital structure, but it was possible to defeat the epidemic, turning the structure of the new Russian worker state with the few resources it had to do so. So what I'm trying to make you to understand is, in the period of the similar situation, Russian country could and handle that period of a pandemic in the time it happened to them. They could handle the economic crisis because they implemented a system which can be something away for the whole world. So what happened? the whole world couldn't support them in a way out of a solution. They were left in the corner without any support. But their way was the best way to succeed in this way of the pandemic happened and the economic crisis happened at that time. So in this time now, we couldn't reach that because we are under a capitalism system which doesn't allow us to be in any successful way of way to come out. And we can also see in the period of now, the European Union are in a crisis, but still they still don't want to follow the proper way of the proposition of the social classes to find a way for the balance of the solution of the economic crisis. They want to stick in the capitalism system where they protect more the bourgeoisie system, so then they can be more rich and more protected than the social class who are suffering, where their family dying the most. So this is the only thing I want the audience to understand. We are in a serious period of the whole world to stand up, to raise their voice, to try to understand the deepest system of a capitalism system will destroy everything we can try to come together and to change the world and to have a better way of living. So that's why the only way for this solution, as we don't have much time, is we need the end of the natural resources control around the world and specifically around Africa. Because if there's an end of the control of natural resources, it's going to be enough income for the government and the country of Africa so that we cannot have this crisis. Because remember what Yves explained to you, the natural resources of Africa is the most important one, which can make the position of African people to don't even complain about any crisis, because they can have enough to handle themselves about any situation, even more about any pandemic can happen anytime. So the second one is the end of the external debt, which we need to have a very big, a huge revolutionary struggle which can make a change, because the external debt can't make us to think for ourselves and to bring solution in whatever challenge we have economically. So this is something we're trying to make all of you around the world to understand. The pandemic is the most bad thing which can help us to stand up right now and to raise our voice, because without this opportunity for us to raise our voice, we're going to be more in the biggest cage of the capitalism and the imperialist system, going to drive us in the worst way, the way they fell in the pandemic period. And we thank you, and we thank all the audience for understanding the disaster happening around the world. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Isaiah. So we are back here. I'm talking from Brazil, from PSTU, the Workers' Socialist Party in Brazil, as part of IWL, the International Socialist League, also. And our seminar, I would like to say that our seminar is already a success, and mainly a success because it's an international success. I'm going to announce some people that are seeing us all over the world on this international solidarity to face the situations pointed out by Joe and Isaiah, shows the importance of international solidarity and struggle. We are being. It's a pleasure to announce that Haji from India, a comrade very kind for us, is also watching us. Gavin from Liverpool, Sadar Amir Hasham also is with us. Chantel from the United Kingdom is also with us. Margaret Macdan from the International Socialist League in England. Crelly from Brazil. I'm sorry for a second. There's an interruption here. Alexis from the Congolese Renaissance Movement in Durban, and also Sankob from the Congolese Renaissance Movement as well is watching us. So, Alexis, thank you very much for presentation. We have already some questions, but before open for your questions and comments, we are going. Capelli Mutashi just reminded us that time has come for the working class and poor to stand up against neoliberal policies driven by the institutions like IMF, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization, and are the enemies of the working class and the poor. And we totally agree with that. And because of that, now we are going to hear from Martin Hauff. Martin Hauff is from the International Socialist League, which is a section of the International Workers' League Fork International. Martin is a founding member of the ISL and with lifelong comrade of ours, our dear Bill Hunter, who's still with us in the struggle. And since Bill left us in the 2008, Martin is the leader of our organization in England, and Martin has done a lot of work, internationalism and Marxism, and writing about it, and also sharing his knowledge and his activities all over the world, including Africa, mainly in the Darfur and Sudan discussions. Martin is going to talk about us of some talk, starting from what Joe and Isaiah contributed. Martin is going to make some comment on the organization and how to organize to fight this struggle. So, Martin, it's a pleasure to receive you here.
Thank you, Wilson. And also, it's a great pleasure to hear Joe Eves and Isaiah explain to us the situation in Africa from Africa. In many ways, I think it's the first time we've been involved in something directly like this that has been so informative and at the same time so deep. We've had many discussions with Africans from different countries, for example, the Sudanese revolution and so on, but very clearly they want answers to how to proceed, how to develop. And that's a collective process, I think, a mutual exchange of opinions and experiences, which are so important. So the idea of the materials that have been presented already and the documents that have been written by the International Workers' League, we want to share and ask people to, give us their opinion and also participate with us. It's a huge task. It's very deep. If you live in an imperialist country like me, then you know that there's been this huge history of colonialism and imperialism for 400 years in Africa and in Asia and so on. And yet they spend a great deal of time covering over that history and covering over what's happening today. So we need to bring that out. And I would say that reading some of the articles, we've managed to explain some of these things as best as we can. For example, the Merseyside Black Lives Matter Alliance has allowed me to speak at their rallies. And I certainly learned a lot from what other people have said at those rallies. And so this exchange of information is really important. And obviously, the history, for example, of Nigeria is so important. We participated in the Nozars struggle in Liverpool and London. And in a certain sense, I'm not just talking about the UK, I'm talking about all the imperialist countries. Shell has been mentioned. So the Dutch, the British and the Americans are all involved in that in one way or another and in covering it over. So I just wanted to say one thing, because it is so deeply buried in Britain, it hardly gets a mention. But it was they talked about before the reformist governments. I just want to say that the Wilson's Labour government supported the process of genocide between 1966 and 1970. Of course, it was for oil, but The warehouses of the British Army were emptied in some areas in order for them to supply those kind of weapons. So I think it's really important if we can work with everybody here who's joining us to develop and deepen our understanding, and also to be able to explain it to the working class, because we know the way to end imperialism is a mass workers and oppressed movement. So we need that information. We need to exchange it. Clearly, what we've heard underlines the importance of all of that, and holding seminars like the one that we're actually doing. Let's do more of that, and let's think about how we can develop it. We invite everybody here to get to know the published materials, have a look at the websites, and centrally, of course, the opinions of the Congolese Civic Society of South Africa, where the two leaders here were part of. So obviously what we stand for, what are we, how do we organize, and so on, all that is kind of really important, because let's put it this way, Britain and the Americas are slowly putting nooses around the neck of every country in Africa, and we have to stop that. That is up to us, working with the mass movement, working with the oppressed, and so on. So yes, we support what they're saying, free Africa. But we also need to be developing that in terms of solidarity and action. We can see lots of action going on. I'm sure UK is no exception. Every week, in the last 3 months, there have been mobilizations every weekend, somewhere in the country, that raises in some way or other many of these kind of questions and searching for more information. So it's a real burning task for socialists and fighters to take an unambiguous stand against imperialism and its agencies, and rouse the working class and its organizations against their wars, their oppressions, and to understand how we can link with Africa, because that is essential to what we're actually saying. So let's continue this work of solidarity with Africa, and continue in the process of what I've actually been saying. So I want to say, and I don't want to take up much time because there's more questions, and we want to hear from our African comrades, but we stand with them absolutely, as we have for many, many decades. Before I finish, I just want to say that in Britain, there is another question which we won't go into, but we have to oppose all immigration controls, and we say nobody is illegal. But that's a bigger discussion for another time. So I want to say thank you very much for giving your time on a Sunday night. And thanks actually for all those comrades that started this process a few years ago. And that has led us to actually begin to open up the discussion on an international basis that we have today. But above all, let's start to organize together, study together, discuss together, exchange opinions together, and let's build something that is absolutely going to destroy capitalism before it destroys us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. So here back. So before we open for the questions, I think that as a member of the Socialist Workers Party United PSTU in Brazil, a section of IWL, I'd like to thank you again for the participation. We have people from all over the world, and that's the way that you can take to face not only the problems in Africa, but the problems of capitalism and imperialism all over the world. It's a pleasure for us and us in Brazil, the Black people in Brazil, the sons and daughters of the diaspora, forced by the imperialism and the capitalism in the beginning of it. We always remember here in Brazil that slavery was the basis for the accumulation of capital from the bourgeoisie. So the history of bourgeoisie, the history of capitalism started with exploiting the most important resource of the world, that are the human beings themselves. So what we're discussing here today is the continuity of a policy that tries to dehumanize us and also to take everything, like Martin said at the end, or destroy capitalism or capitalism destroy us. So to open for the question, before opening for the questions, also have to like to greet Heraldo from ISL in England. Huge hug for him. He's a Brazilian comrade, and you miss him here over here. But also we have now. I'm going to make two questions, and I don't know if we have some other one. Just a second, because the chat is just speaking here. All right. So let's do the questions. The idea about the questions is we would like the comrades, Joe, Zaya, and Martin, to answer the questions, and also try within the answering the questions to make their final comments. All right. If you have another questions during the process of the answer, we can add afterwards. But the idea is to answer the questions, also some make some conclusion comments, because like Martin said, you are Sunday night, and I don't want to hold you so long. So the questions you have, Masdor in quality, send us two questions. So the first one is, how do you envision solidarity between workers in the imperialist countries and Africa around nationalizing the mines and resource companies? All right, it's written there. Also, a second question, to what extent has ethnic conflicts caused by imperialism drawn boundaries in keeping Africa poor? What's the way out of this? What would be a revolutionary solution for these ethnic conflicts? Also, Danny Dylan is thanking us for this very informative seminar, and he says, I'd like to ask the speakers how they think socialists in the imperialist countries can best support our brothers and sisters in Africa. All right. So, like I said before, Joe, Zaya, and Martin, the idea is to we are going to give you 7 minutes so you can answer the questions, and also make a first. After, we're going to give some minutes to say goodbye, but make a first conclusion of the seminar. Before Joy speaks, I would just like to say, as a member of IWL, that this, like the comrade said, this is a first approach to this kind of seminar, and we are sure that's not going to be the only one. We are already thinking about how to continue this discussion, so we are already inviting us to follow us in our page in the website, to receive the material, to write down the form so you can send you the PowerPoints, so you can continue the discussion and organize new talks about that. Joe, please.
Thank you so much, comrade. And this was a very big pleasure for me to share this moment with you. And as I said in my presentation, showing that the corruption is not the biggest problem. It's one of the problems, but the main important problem in Africa, in Latin America, and many countries is the expropriation of resources. And when comrade asked how the first issue about the ethnic conflict in Africa that came from the boundaries, that is a reality. And I remember 2 years ago, we were discussing that issue of boundaries and conflict in Africa. And I said that it's all depend on us, because it's all depend on the design that we put in our mind. If we still believe that what was drawn in Berlin have to limit our way of think, we are in that prison. But if we think that those kind of boundaries can be considered as our prison, then we realize that we have a very important mission to do. Remember, capitalism is global. So working class also, their reality are global. What is faced in one country is the same that is faced in another country. So the boundaries for me are not so representative in terms of the reality. And we have to go over that, over the boundaries. And the conflict for me is only used to create more trouble. Remember, I read a very important book written by someone who teach in the French Academy, Bernard Lugan. He said that in Africa, it's very easy to create a war. Just make two ethnic or two tribe to fight each other, and then you get the result. But make it where you have resources. So those ethnic trouble are only a shadow that cover the reality. The problem is not that people are hating each other because of the boundary. The problem is what is under. And that's why I think that it's our own responsibility to fight globally, to link ourselves, because I gave the example of BlackRock. When they invest, they are from US, but they can invest in Total. That's a company coming from France. They can invest in in Gulf that come from Germany. So means as a response, also the working class can't have limit. Whatever happen in one country have to interest people from another country. Boundaries is just a figure, and it can limit our struggle, and we can't fight according to boundaries. But the most important thing that I want people to keep in mind is that by paying the foreign debt, every time we keep ourselves poor forever. And by letting our resources be controlled by foreign companies, we create the condition for our own poverty. Those are, according to me, our field of fight. That's why we have to fight. Fight for that, to control our resource, but also to stop the strategy of paying debt that we didn't even know how it came from. So quickly, that is a comment that I can give at this moment to summarize my presentation, and I may reply to give one comment to one point or another point.
So now let's hear from Isaiah.
Thank you very much, Wilson. Yeah, my comment regarding my presentation. I think this is the time where we have to come together in the solidarity, because someone say that small group of millionaires driving us. But if you look at it, you find out the imperialism system is designed according to the spider net, where everything is linked each other, so that it composes their power of control. It means there's no a bigger place or a place where it's rich, or it have a very important natural resources where they cannot control. They always have a link with another link, like Eve explained. So I think if we use the same logic of trying to become internationally in the power way, because each and every time, like in Africa, before the independence happened in Africa, there was a revolutionary movement come around African country. We put pressure. That's why you can see there's an independence here which follows in Africa, in Congo, in Ghana. So it was close. Why? Because there was too much pressure of what they call revolutionary or struggle. But the only thing I can see, they couldn't understand the main thing of the struggle was not the political matter. The main thing of the struggle was the economical matter. That's why it's the second independence is needed. But for us to get out in the second independence, which is linked with the debts, the control of the natural resources, it's linked with so many cases and the economic crisis, it tightening us. I think we need all of us to go back in the same, in a similar thing which was happened before the period of the independence, meaning before the 1960s, so that we can raise something very strong, which means from now on, we had to fight with two things. The source of the capitalism and financial, where it's coming from, which is Africa, and where they implement the institution system, Western world, where they implement all the offices, headquarters. It means African people, UK people, Brazilian people, we had to create a very strong solidarity which never happened before, so that we can have the very important challenge which never happened before. But we have to go with the same way of the, what can I say, of the capital, the imperialism system in the spider net. It means everyone is linked, like the way we are linked with Martin, we are linked with you, we are linked with everybody, and we make that link to become very strong, and we become close, and we support each other, and we make sure it increases in numbers in different places, in each sector, in each country. We make sure the movement go to each country the same level. And I can also take chance to answer someone question about how can we deal with this capitalism system in Congo. I can try to say it's simple. We do the same program. Come together, exchange information first, understanding their functional system, and spreading the information, and raising the number of the people who have a knowledge about how things works. So trying to mobilize young people, pushing knowledge, making people to understand, so that we go in number and we make people to understand some of the things they don't know, because the gap of Congo is more about the lack of information. We don't have much information about what's going on. We just act according to emotion. So let's turn that to the information system, so that people can have a way of doing something better. I think that is my comment. Thank you very much.
Martin, could you add something, please, about the questions?
Yeah, I think in relation to the program, we have to be guided by this discussion, I think, that has already been raised on the question of the external debt. So that means challenging the City of London, Frankfurt, New York, and so on. But how do we do that? Well, our fight has got to be to go into the working class with the confidence that the class, when it begins to move, can change everything. But the way to get there, I think, is to make it very clear to all the minorities in the imperialist countries that we stand with them unconditionally. I'd like to give you one example in relation to that. Not able to be with us tonight, but Eric Slater, member of the Bavois International Workers' League. He was a Chicago bus driver. He is a Chicago bus driver. And he was just talking about, with his fellow drivers, we should not be busing police or detainees to and from the BLM demonstrations. And just for talking about it, they sacked him. But of course, the campaign is continuing. So I think we need to fight for the principles of our movement, the whole question of class independence, against all the trade union leaders that want to keep on dealing with the establishment and so on. So we need to fight for class independence in relation to this, and that is central. So that part of it is continuing our work with those who are fighting, Black Lives Matter, for example. But I can also inform the meeting that there are others in England, and I think across Europe and across the world, been mentioned earlier today, the question of health workers who are fighting like mad against the injustices that they face, and they are very open to this kind of discussion. But I think we need to develop the program in relation to the external debt, the second independence, and my understanding about that, let's continue the discussion, but is that all Africa belongs to Africa. All the oil should be nationalized, but it should be nationalized under workers' control. So that is a central point, I think, of this. I'm just looking at the time. I could go on, but I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
So, comrades, so before we finish, first of all, I'd like to thank you, João Pedro from PSU from Brazil, who is in the backstage and help us with the technology that allowed us to have this very successful seminar so far. I'm sorry. And also I'd like to thank Joe, Eve, Isaiah, and Martin Halfy, the IWL, the ISL, the Congolese Civil Society, for the great contributions they gave to us. And most of all, would like to thank on behalf of the International Works League, all the comrades, men and women who participated in the seminar. Like we said, it's a first initiative of many of others that we want to make. And here in Brazil, I'm a part of the Workers' Socialist Party United, PSTU, and we from the Black Caucus of PSTU always remember something. There is a Kigongo. We talked about a lot about Congo today, and there is a Kigongo word, which is Malungu. Malungu was a word that they enslaved Africans, even while inside of the boats that were bringing them to America, to the Americas, used and put them together. Malungu means comrade. So we made ourselves comrades in the process of being taken from Africa, and since then we are making us comrades all over the world. And this kind of initiative, this kind of seminar, is a demonstration that we more than ever we needed to be comrades, to create, to unite the working class all over the world, to build a program for the international revolution, the international socialist revolution that can take us from all the pain, all the suffering, all the killing, all the murders that are committed by capitalism, by stealing our resources, and our mineral resources, our natural resources, and also our human resources. So this the IWL is very happy to help to organize this kind of seminar. We invite all the communities which participated to share this video all over the world, to share our materials, to keep in touch with us, so you can build a program together to stop paying the external debt, most of all, to build an international organization that can face the international imperialism. So to finish, also I'd like to thank Neto and Adriana, who also are in backstage, helping us to organize this seminar. And if the comrades Joe, Ives, want to say something else, Martin, just to give a less salute, less greeting to the comrades, would be nice. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Wilson. Thank you to all the participants, all the comrades, and thank you for everyone for being part of this program. And my last word will be, let's unite ourselves, build an international movement that will be a real material force that can help us to fight against our real enemy, that is capitalism. And to do that, we can only be united as an international movement. Thank you for being part of this program, and let's meet to the next one. This is the first stage, and let's meet again next time. Thanks so much.
All right. So thank you, everybody. So let's keep together and let's fight. United fight, united win. See.
Wilson, shall I say
Yeah,
something?
sure.
I just want to salute everyone who's attended tonight. I'm sure this is the beginning of a much needed process. And of course, one of the great things that we need to do, whatever organization it is in the class, is to strengthen that organization, because without organization, the working class are just going to act individually. But also in connection with that and running through all of that is the importance of building organizations like the International Socialist League and all the organizations of the International Workers' League. So I just wanted to say that and consider it, open it up. Let's have the discussions. How can we defeat capitalism? That's the real question. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Isaiah, last question, last word. I think that's his topic. All right. Great. So that was a great. Isaiah, can you speak? There's no microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now here.
I just wanted to thank a lot to the audience, and I wish them to come together with all of us to make differences as requested by Capella, if we can make it to be something real. And as you say, not in the future, but we have to make it now. We thank you for your presence. We thank Jean Pedro, thank Neto and Adrian again, and Wilson. All the team, we thank you for your presentation. I also to thank Eve and Martin. Thank you very much.
All right. So everyone, have a good afternoon or good night. See you in the next one.
Thank you.